Okay, our next step is really to decide as in how we're going to make our application available to our customers. Well, logic says, well, most people get their applications from application stores. So we decided to reach out to the BlackBerry App Store, the iPhone App Store, the Android App Store, and Windows 7 App Stores. You know, to be able to put our application out there for people to start to download. People are not going to come to our 511.org site to download an app. It just doesn't happen. So, marketing-wise. So, the agreement we had with our contractors was, one, NYS DOT would register, and you heard some of the aspects of registering in these stores. Our contractor will take care of loading the application and do any other settings they need to do in the App Store to make that application public to download. Well, as you heard, dealing with the App Stores is interesting at best. Right? Google Android, very easy doing, folks. It cost us $25 to make the registration. They didn't really want any documentation. They didn't want us really proving who we are or anything, so it was pretty easy. Then we started talking to the BlackBerry and iPhone folks. They wanted articles of incorporation, business licenses, certificate of formation, charter documents. Somebody had a business license for their state agency. We kind of said, what? So we were at a little bit of a loss. So what we've done, for our purposes, we actually got the Transportation Traffic Law 11, which establishes the Department of Transportation and outlines what our responsibilities are. And we sent that off, and well, it took a while for them to get back to us. And the BlackBerry folks said, okay, we get you, you're fine. iPhone, we're still waiting for. They haven't got back to us, so we don't know if they're going to accept that documentation or not.
You got to call them.
Yeah. My Rexy is dealing with them. Rexella Williams, our project manager, trying to meet the requirements to get us in. So this was a real adventure for us. To, how the state agency, how do you prove that you exist? It's kind of weird, I exist because I breathe. So, next lesson learned is with the app stores, as we talked about earlier. Start early. Start in the beginning of the process to start registering in the app stores and getting all that documentation done and so forth. Part of our other aspect was the indemnities. Signing documents saying that we would be liable for any incidents might occur with this application and so forth. Well, we don't do that as a state agency. We don't do that. We don't admit anything. So arrangements were made with the contractor that signed those documents. They developed the application. They should be pretty much confident that their application is not going to cause any problems with any kind of device or viruses or tampering or anything else. So they agreed to sign those documents, and that's how we worked around that too. So, but like I said, the lesson learned is try to address all that early in your process, early in your project. Well, after all that, we come down to just our goal is December 7th. We don't know, we're still waiting on response from the stores to get it out there, but we're hoping that that's our target date. It might be moved depending on the availability of getting the application up and running and out to the stores. Those are our main lessons learned. One, go through your processes and register for the store. Make sure your contractor knows your process as a state agency as what documents you need, because mobile apps are developed fast. And that's all I really have for you today. You have any questions or about our project?
Start to finish. Well, let's say the December 7th is finished. What time frame are you talking about?
Could you repeat the question for the website?
All right, the question was, what kind of time frame? Our goal is to get the application out this December 7th, but how long did it really take to actually build the app? It took, well, including our struggles with our design document,
yes.
Okay, and
Yep.
from where we started, gave them the requirements document to the point where we signed off on 4.5, 5 months.
So do you think, now that you've been through this process for your agency, the next one could be shorter?
Even shorter. Even shorter. And like I said, within a month and a half, they were showing us demos. They were showing us demos, and we haven't even finished the design documents. That the first marching orders and the requirements document, they took that and went, and started to develop. And with their studio they had, it was very easy to make changes on the fly. You know, so it was a very quick process. Very quick process. I think if they had a little bit more understanding and we went over our process prior to, it would have been even shorter. It would have been even shorter.
Yeah. For like future updates, I may want to make to the application. You have to pay extra for that. Is there some kind of maintenance included with that?
Yeah, there's a maintenance
Can you
agreement.
repeat that question?
You're asking if there's any, we need to make any changes to the application, or a maintenance agreement or something with the application. So,
Yeah.
yes, there is. In fact, there's going to be a second version coming out that's going to incorporate the wintertime travel, where it shows you the road conditions and so forth, and some other aspects to add into the application. So that's phase 2. So we do have an ongoing maintenance agreement with them to maintain and make changes to the application.
Like even if you want to change like a sentence or two, is that part of the agreement? You have to pay extra for that? Or?
No, it's part of our agreement. We actually, in some of the aspects of it, like our FAQs and information is kind of static, we have an interface we go in and make changes, do things like that. We send them off and they take care of it.
Why don't you support having the app downloadable from your website? It seems like it might be more cost effective to just have like a cross-platform application that you can just, take directly from 511.
We talked about it as we provided. Well, she was asking why isn't there like a cross-platform application that people can download from the 511 site versus going to the stores. It was a discussion as part of the committee and so forth. I think we're going to provide a link to the stores where you can download the app. It's a free application, so there's no cost involved. We thought it would be a better marketing tool to be in the stores versus on the web, and we're probably going to do both. But like I said, we also developed a mobile browser version, that if you have a mobile browser on your phone, you don't have to download anything, you just go to that site and use it. The problem with mobile web browsers, a lot of the phones don't support the interactive maps that we use. A Google Maps, you click an icon, you get a pop-up. Some of the mobile browsers don't support that.
I could follow up a little bit on that. Basically, from my understanding, the Android is the only one that you could just click on a link and install on the phone. To get it on an iPhone, it has to go through the store, and it has to go through their approval process. And any updates also have to be updated. I don't necessarily know whether they go through every line of code, but they put a scanner on and run through the app to see what interactions, what's going on with the application, and does it meet their requirements. So you can't.
Because I'll add that the requirements are spelled out in the user interface guidelines, and their reputation is that they are very strict to that, and everything that I've ever seen, every app I've ever purchased, is strict to that. There's sizes for the icons, there's sizes for performance issues, there's your memory use, there's memory leakage. They give you the tools in the Xcode to match almost like a checklist of all the user interface guidelines. So that's one of the reasons why it is proprietary, it is closed. However, what they're doing that because it is their opinion that if they don't do it, nobody's doing it. And then that's how you get malware, that's how you get these, apps that are not secure, that's where they have the privacy concerns, that's where they have the security concerns, and they're telling us to rely on them to test these things. So that's where that comes from.
So unfortunately, it's not as simple as just bring a link on.
Yeah.
There are companies that are getting into the space that will manage your mobile enterprise. So you give them the bits, and they will make it available to all the stores and deal with the headaches of that.
And that's basically the agreement we have with our subcontractor. We register and they handle all the headaches on the testing and upload and all that other paperwork that needs to be done whenever a change or a new version comes out.
But once your app is released on the App Store, if you can just put a link right on your website that links right to your app in the App Store to download it.
So basically, creating a cross-platform application is not really something to, look into. It's better to build a separate app for separate phones.
There's trade-offs either way. Things like titanium and phone gap will allow you to have one code base and deploy and create the installs that would go to all the different stores and marketplaces. Or you could make a decision, and some problem domains require you to really write an Xcode application for the iPhone. And then you write a whole other version for the Android and one for Windows. Because it's very specific, you're using very specific things, and it's very complex, then you might need to write all those different apps. But the stuff that I showed, where you're just doing lists and sending out emails and text messages, any of the cross-compiled apps will allow you to do that very nicely. So you have one code base to maintain. So you have to weigh it for every project. And it takes a lot of expertise to do both an Android and iPhone app. It's very complex. So if you do it in Titanium and you know JavaScript, you can do all of it. You know ActionScript and Flash, you can easily do it in Air like I showed. If you're .NET, you can do Windows platform.